All right, welcome candidates. Listen, if you're gearing up for your MMD second mate oral exams, you already know the deal. Memorizing a checklist? That's just not going to cut it. You have to know the exact 15-step abandoned ship sequence, and more importantly, you have to know why each step is exactly where it is. So in this explainer, we're going to lock down that chronological logic so you can absolutely nail your exam and, frankly, prove you're ready to take command when lives are literally on the line.
To make this stick, we're dividing the whole procedure into 3 strictly chronological phases: before lowering, and waterborne, and finally, after launch. Let's get right into it.
Okay, put yourself in the shoes of the person in charge for a second. You're standing there looking at a stowed lifeboat. Your absolute authority starts right now. You're not just a passenger here. You are the one orchestrating the survival of everyone on your muster list. The boat is secured on the davits, the pressure is massive, and every single decision you make from this exact second has to be precise, calculated, and strictly by the book.
So let's dive straight into phase 1, before lowering. We're looking at the first 7 critical steps you have to take before that boat moves an inch.
Step 1, ensure there's absolutely no obstruction below you. You definitely do not want to lower onto debris. Step 2, secure that painter. If you launch without making the painter fast, you're going to instantly drift out of control. Then, step 3 is taking your head count. And step 4, grab all the vital emergency equipment that isn't already stowed, things like the EPIRB, SART, portable VHFs, and extra blankets. Basically, this phase builds the entire foundation for your survival strategy.
Now, let's talk about step 3 for a second. The head count. You are verifying that every single assigned person on the muster list is actually present. This is absolutely non-negotiable. You do not lower a boat just hoping stragglers are magically going to catch up. You check that list. In the utter chaos of an abandoned ship scenario, panic spreads like wildfire, so a strict head count is basically your anchor to reality.
Once your people and gear are sorted, we hit step 5. Open the embarkation door and get everyone loaded in swiftly and safely. Step 6, start the engine if you can. And then step 7. Now this is highly specific but super critical. If you're on a tanker with a fire-protected lifeboat, you must open the sea suction valve. This powers the water spray system, giving you a literal water curtain shield if you happen to launch right into burning oil.
All right, pause right there. Red alert. Because here comes a classic examiner trap. They will abruptly stop you and ask, why on earth is starting the engine step 6? Why must you do that strictly before lowering the boat?
When they ask this, you need to explain that the order absolutely matters. The logic here is just as crucial as the step itself. Look, if you lower that boat into heavy, rolling seas and then realize the engine won't start, you are a sitting duck. You're completely at the mercy of the waves, probably about to get violently smashed against the ship's hull. The ocean definitely doesn't care if you skipped a step. So you test the engine while you're still safely hanging on the davits. Make sense?
Okay, engine is tested, everyone's loaded. We are moving right along into phase 2, lowering and waterborne. That's steps 8 through 12.
But wait, before that boat even touches the water, the examiner is going to test your sequence logic one more time. They'll ask what critical physical check absolutely has to happen before the boat is waterborne.
You need to look them in the eye and confidently say, Step 8, close the drain plug. It sounds ridiculously simple, I know, but under extreme stress, people forget. And if you forget this one tiny step, you're actively sinking the very second you hit the ocean. It's a fatal error, and examiners have zero tolerance for it. Just zero.
So, the plug is secured. Now, step 9, command every single person to don their safety belts. Seriously, a lifeboat descent is rarely a smooth elevator ride. The ship might be listing at crazy angles, the wind could be howling, the drop can be incredibly violent. Only after you've verified those belts are tight do you move to step 10 and actually pull the brake to lower the lifeboat.
Right, you're a waterborne. The second you hit the water, your attention shifts to the heavy hardware. You got the forward painter release and the hook toggles. Listen to me carefully here. Mixing up the next 2 steps is a guaranteed way to fail your oral exam. No question. These mechanisms are your physical connection to the ship, and operating them out of sequence is an absolute recipe for disaster.
Here's exactly how you break it down for them. Step 11, release the hooks, but only after confirming both are completely ready and the boat is fully supported by the water. Release one early, and the boat swings violently. Now contrast that with step 12, releasing the painter. Actually scratch that, you hold the painter. The painter keeps you tethered and tracking right alongside the ship while you get your steering and propulsion sorted. If you drop it too early, the weather just sweeps you away.
And just like that, we're into phase 3, after launch.
Steps 13 to 15. The focus here shifts completely away from the ship and entirely toward survival and signaling.
Your absolute immediate priority the second that painter drops is step 13. Move outside the danger zone. Hit the throttle and get away. Once you're clear, you transition to step 14, which is the strictly controlled use of pyrotechnics, and step 15, switching on your electronic distress beacons. Surviving the launch was just half the battle.
Now, if you use the phrase danger zone in your exam, and you absolutely should, be ready to define it. It's the immediate area near the ship's side, the massive suction area created by a sinking vessel going down, and literally anywhere falling debris or collapsing ship structures could hit you. You have to get out of this zone immediately.
So, you're a safe distance away. Let's look at your electronic lifelines, the SART and the EPIRB, along with your portable VHF. You smartly brought them aboard back in Step 4, but their activation rules for Step 15 are not the same. Examiners love to push on this distinction to see if you actually know your gear.
You absolutely need to memorize this. For the EPIRB, assuming it hasn't deployed automatically, you activate it immediately after abandoning ship. It talks to satellites to alert the whole world you're in trouble. But the SART? You wait. You only switch on the search and rescue transponder when rescue units, like aircraft or other ships, are actually expected to be nearby. It responds to X-band radar, right? So turning it on immediately just drains the vital battery before anyone is even close enough to see the blip on their screens. Knowing that difference proves you really understand the tech.
And finally, step 14, visual distress signals, like a rocket parachute flare. Out there in the dark, this is your last lifeline. It creates a spectacular visual, but here's the massive catch. You only have a very limited supply. Every single flare has to count.
Make sure you emphasize the golden rule to your examiner. Never, ever waste distress signals. You only fire pyrotechnics when there's a genuine, calculated chance of a rescuer actually seeing it. Popping a flare off into an empty night sky? That just destroys your chances of being rescued tomorrow. You're the person in charge. You dictate when and if a flare gets launched. Strict resource discipline is the name of the game here. So, we've walked through the sequence, the hardware, the traps, and the tactics, but here is the big question to leave you with. You know the 15 steps now, but could you actually defend the logic behind every single one when real lives are on the line? Master the sequence, deeply understand the why behind each action, and you won't just pass your MMD oral exam, you're going to be fully prepared to lead your crew when it truly matters most. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, guys. Study hard, trust the sequence, and stay safe out there.